You're not allowed to date anyone when you're going to school, right? But as soon as you graduate, it's like, why aren't you married?
Many people will say that there is never a land.
Yes.
Actually, when you just swimming on the land, there will be another sea.
If you take a gap year and just
Sleep.
right, lay flat, right, for 1 year, maybe that's not going to help you. You get one life to live. Do what you want to do.
Hey yo, pack your bags and follow the tracks. Open your minds and try new things, man.
Hey there! Welcome to Hangzhou Youthcast.
We're here to bring you the coolest stories.
Listen to the ideas of international youth.
Coming to the realm of global youth cultural exchanges.
It's Hangzhou Youthcast.
It's Hangzhou Youthcast.
Hello guys, welcome back to Hangzhou Youthcast. This is Fanchi on the mic. So like last episode, today we are still going to talk about graduation, which is such a summer topic. And today I'm so happy to have two friends here. Kevin!
Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin. I was here previously, so happy to be back. I'm currently a PhD student at Zhejiang University studying Chinese philosophy, and previously I have over 10 years experience in higher education administration, specifically in international education. So really excited to talk about this topic today with everyone.
And we also have Fan here.
Hello everyone, I'm Fan, your old friends. I'm from Hangzhou TV and I graduate from Communication University of Zhejiang and Shanghai International Studies University and also Loughborough University in UK. And my major is journalism and communication. Very happy to meet you here again.
Yeah, welcome. And honestly today I'm quite nervous and I'm quite anxious. Because I still remember last episode we have Kaylee here, a very young lady and from Malaysia, and we were like girls talk and very chill. So anyway, today I want to make this discussion more serious because we are going to talk about anxiety. Yes, because speaking of graduation, guys, we are all happy, we are all like promising, and we are all looking forward to the future. But there are also a hit word in the graduation season, which is the devaluation of academic qualification, right? Because I've noticed some news. It's about some well-educated people are doing a job which is not that appropriate. For example, like a PhD from Zhejiang University who is doing a food delivery job, and a graduate from the Communication University of China who is working on a hot pot shop. So I think, that make me realize that do we have to try that hard to get in the university? So what do you think of that?
I'll jump in first, I guess. This is a really broad topic, and I think we could actually spend the next hour just discussing this one point. I would say the situation is different in the United States and China, slightly so, but the devaluation of educational degrees is, I think, similar in both. So let's start with the United States, in that I think recently we've seen a lot of individuals speaking to the importance of pursuing higher education, not only at the bachelor's level, but then at postgraduate as well, so pursuing master's or PhD degrees. And to some extent, I believe those individuals who are vocal against pursuing higher education have a point, right? It is unbelievably expensive, specifically in the United States. The price of higher education, even at public universities, is not very affordable. It's not guaranteeing you a very successful future in terms of what kind of position you can find or the kind of salary that you can have. Kind of different than maybe 30, 40 years ago when you knew coming out with a bachelor's degree, you were maybe guaranteed to have a much higher salary paying job. Now, most studies today will still show that on average, most students who pursue these degrees will do better. There are other paths available, right? If you wanted to go to a trade school, you wanted to learn a specific skill, these opportunities can provide you with a future. I think a different aspect of this, though, is the value of education. So outside of the economic benefits that it can bring you and the possibilities that you can have in terms of a career choice, I think there is an undeniable value to increasing your education for the individual and also for the society. So I just outside of any of the economic benefits that you receive, the extrinsic values that you have for pursuing this degree, I think it's so important that we pursue an education to better ourselves, if that's of interest to you, right? But I think it's up to the individual whether or not they want to. So a little bit on the U.S. perspective, but if you want to jump in at this point and we can...
But actually in China is actually the same because maybe several years ago when I graduate from my undergraduate university, I can go to this company, and afterwards, after 3 years, I got my postgraduate degree. I still in the same company, and maybe lower salary than my classmates enter the company 3 years ago because they have working experience. So that is why the Chinese now graduate is very anxious about this, because due to the news that you told us, well, there are many very popular discussions on the internet on China. One of the very popular questions that if you have choice to got a degree of Peking University or 100 million yuan, how will you get to choose between them? But at that time, I think actually several years ago, I think most of us will choose a degree of Peking University.
Yes.
Because that is a very huge advantage when you are a very young people to go to the society. But now actually there are many voices on the internet that they will choose the money, because here I think people are more want to choose the certainty instead of uncertainty, because even if you got a very good degrees, maybe you cannot earn very much money in societies now.
Yes.
But the money is just actually what you can gain. So that is a question that I think this question is just belong to different times. Different times people will have different choice due to the advantage they will get. I think that is point.
Yes. And we just like nowadays people, especially young people, the only goal, or can I say the only goal? The goal they want to gain is to have money. Do you still remember like last episode at the end, like we were sharing our future wish, and me and Fan and Fan and the Malaysian girl, we all said I want to be rich in the future. Yes.
But actually, I think most of the graduates just they study is their study is in order to earn more money and get more better job in the society. So that's the point. That's the final objective for the education for them.
Yes. And also there are another interesting discussion on the internet. Like the CEO of the Unitree and the DeepSeek. Their boss are both graduated PhD. So people discuss if the two CEOs they didn't get the PhD degree, will Unitree or DeepSeek exist?
Liang Fenwang, a 40-year-old Chinese man from Mililing village in the southern province of Guangdong. Up until a few weeks ago, he was essentially unknown, but now the whole world is scrambling to gather more information about him. The reason? DeepSeek, an AI system that he built with some of his college buddies, caused a $1 trillion stock meltdown on Wall Street, and the entire tech world has taken notice.
And also, the Zuckerberg, the Microsoft, I remember he dropped out of university, right?
Correct. Harvard.
Harvard.
He created Facebook.
Oh yes. So how do you think how university change people?
So, very interesting question, and we could talk at length around, would this happen if they had pursued this PhD or they had not? I think we can say that there is a value to education, especially, or not especially, but in technology. One field is where that's very important. And if we have individuals who are not increasing their knowledge through the tried and true fashion of a traditional education going up through postgraduate degrees, we probably would not have the advancements in technology that we've seen in the last century, right? So those are extremely important. However, those advancements, do those individuals necessarily become CEOs, right? CEO can frequently just be a management position and might not require that in-depth knowledge of the field in general, right? We can look at a lot of companies as an example, right? The most wealthy individual in the world, Elon Musk, runs many different companies, many of which he maybe is not the technical master in that field, but he has the capital to purchase and manage those companies. So there is the ability to do it, right? Is the point you brought forward with those two organizations out of China, and then we see many examples where it doesn't happen. Someone like a Zuckerberg, I believe Bill Gates as well, Steve Jobs, individuals who did not pursue higher education to its terminal point, but were very, very successful. So I think there are multiple paths you can take. However, again, if we're looking on average, I think there are many benefits to pursuing education unless you have a very, very clear path that you'd like to take and you have a lot of ideas to get there. Or if you're someone who has very privileged, right? We can see a lot of these success stories. Individuals had capital, they had connections already that helped them get to where they are. So I would advocate still for education, at least a bachelor's degree. I think there's a lot of benefits to that. But it's not necessarily required, as you said, to reach that, to get the money, right? If that's what people are truly interested in, and I think we can talk about that too, whether that is the end goal, but it's not, you're not necessarily required to have those degrees.
I think one thing that we can't ignore is that there is a thing called survivorship bias. Yes, the success people may be just only one of many, many, many millions. And actually, even some of them don't have the degrees. Maybe they have some other resources. Maybe some relationship of they know many people that can provide their some resources, the business and investments. That is not everyone can get. But for the normal people, I think degrees can actually give us something. You can get, I think it's just for the more people, you can get better job actually, due to you have higher degrees.
Yes, that's correct. And also, there's another interesting thing is that is your major that matching to your job that you're doing. For example, do you still remember the film哪吒?
Yes.
Yeah, we talk about that. The film哪吒, and the director 饺子. He was not an animation student. He studied on, I think it's medicine. Yeah. And then he creates the film哪吒. And so, quick question. Is your major matching to your job currently?
Actually, I can do first because I'm actually working now. You are still in your doctor's degree.
I'm just a little student.
Yes, my answer is yes, because I learned 7 years of journalism and communication, and now I'm a journalist in the TV station. So actually, I'm matching myself, but I think my way is not a one-way direction. Actually, after my graduation, I tried to go to the different field. My first job is in the a sales work in the fast consuming industry. So that is not very related at all. But at that time, I think I just want to experience more, to get more knowledge about different careers. And after that work, I know that I didn't like the sales and marketing job, so I changed myself, go to the United Nations. Yes, so that is a very different industry. I think it's like it's is intergovernment organization, so it's very different. So at that time, I think after your different choice, your different experience to work, you can know which is you like and which you don't like. Actually, I'm just this experienced person. Yes. So afterwards, I think that I choice to go back to my former major. It's just journalism and communication. But after I enter this job, I find that I'm very suitable for it. Because I have 7 years of study experience. I know what is working, the working ability, and I've gained all the ability that's suitable for this career. So I will think that it will help me to get more quickly and more easier to get access to the job, and also I can do better in my just among my abilities. So I think that if your job is more related to your major, it's lucky one. It's a very lucky choice for you. But actually, maybe some of us choose different job is because that you have not so much opportunity to get the same job as your major. Yes, that's true now.
So to answer your question, because I took a non-traditional path, right? I didn't go bachelor's, master's, PhD back to back to back. I went out to work. I've been in industry for a long time now, coming back to education. So my degrees do not align with what I'm doing. All of my degrees are different. But I think it speaks to the value of comprehensive or holistic education, right? It doesn't matter what degree you pursue. It's going to improve your ability to think, to reason, to understand information that's provided to you. I think that is why, at least in the United States educational system, most universities have a core curriculum. These classes that everyone has to take, no matter what your major is, because we're trying to broaden your mind. So as an undergraduate, I had 2 majors, international affairs and Chinese language and culture. I don't necessarily work in those fields, but I live in China, so Chinese language is very important. And as an international individual, I represent myself and my country every day. That's a form of international relations, so to speak. My master's degree was organizational learning, performance, and change. So understanding organizational development and how to manage people and improve learning within organizations. Any management position, anytime you're working with people or within a larger organization, I think that comes into play. So you don't necessarily have to be a specific, this is exactly to my major, but I think anything that we learn, we can use facets of that to improve our abilities in other roles. So it's, as you said, it's great when you pick a path and you know what you want to do and you end up in that role perfectly aligned with what you were doing. But sometimes your outside experience, for example, the director of Nurja, there's probably some ways that their education as you said, perhaps a medical student, influenced their thinking in creating animation that gave them some sort of different idea than maybe people who took that more traditional path of going through school and learned some of the same things. So that outside perspective can be very important.
Yes, especially in the movie Nurja, the character, the muscle line is super real. Yes. So you all mentioned that your major and the knowledge help you guys to work, right? So let's back to the internship. So did you do the internship during your study?
I did not. So I did not do any internships during my study. No. So as an undergraduate, 2 years in the United States, and then I did 2 years in China as an exchange student kind of program. And then after graduation, I just started working right away. So I was working 5, 6, 7 years before I decided to go back and do a master's degree, because I was working in higher education and I knew that improving my degree not only would have those economic benefits that we've talked about, so some of those extrinsic values, but also I wanted to improve myself. And so I went back into school and pursued a master's. So
I have a question. So your university don't have the requirement for students to get an internship?
Correct.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, so many U.S. universities do not have an internship requirement for graduation. Prior to going to university, I had already worked. I already had experience. Many American students start working in high school. Part-time jobs, different types of work, but no internship requirement for my degree. Different degree programs have different requirements, but I would say kind of on the whole, we usually do not have that requirement that I know you do here.
Yes, we do.
Yes, I understand that. Yeah.
Yes, especially in China, in high school, every student, like, can I say suffer? Yeah, suffer. They suffer from 高考,
Yes.
which is the
Yes.
the college entrance examination. So when they got into college, the society wants them to quickly adjust to the real society. So like when they're in their third or fourth year in the university, their teacher will push them to do the internship, right? Because we are graduated from the same university.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there is a requirement of internship. So I also want to ask my 师姐, like a big sister.
No, I understand.
Yes. So I also want to ask you. So which way do you think is more practical, doing internship or study in the classroom?
I think for me, I'll prefer to study in classroom, but because you know that not every internship is suitable for you. You can't choose sometimes. You can't choose. Just one thing I remember that I got an internship for new media. I think it's new media operator in one company in my university. But actually, when I come there, I just writing some documents for them. So the thing is not that I imagine for this position, but actually many internship is same like this. Because the company know that you want an internship to graduate, and they want some free labor. Yes. So actually, I think the quality of internship is also very important to answer this question. If the quality of internship is very good and the position is very suitable for you, even you have a very good opportunity to change it to your true job. So that is a very good internship. But actually, most of internship maybe is just to get a certificate.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So, okay, I know, because for me, definitely to do the internship, because my major is a little bit different from you. Mine is bilingual broadcasting, which is like our major focus on two things, which is how to use our voice and how to become a people that can work in media industry. So we need to practice, especially our voice and our talking skills, something like that. So I think it depends on your major and your future option, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I would agree, and I think it's something that both of you have stated now, that it's important for what your degree was to go out and get that experience, and from your experience of going and doing kind of menial tasks that weren't what you were thinking you were going to do. Going out and doing an internship, you can learn a lot of practical skills, but you can also learn more about the industry that you're interested in going into. You might have this idea of what a specific industry is, and you get there and realize, I don't like this work. I really like learning about this subject, but now I realize what the work actually entails. Maybe I don't want to pursue that. And I think a lot of individuals who graduate, especially from their bachelor's degree programs, they might study a specific field, get into that field and realize, I don't like this, and they change, right? And that goes back to our earlier conversation around, does your work align with your degree? And so I think there are benefits to having both good and bad internships, because you learn about the field that you may want to enter into after graduation.
I think that's a good point, because many graduates don't know what job they want to do. But after the internship, maybe you will know that you don't like it. So it's a very good trial for the students, and they can make their choice with a very less cost.
Correct.
Yes. And also, speaking of change, I know that a lot of things are changing, especially the way we graduate. And speaking of graduation, we also have another, like a nightmare, which is the thesis. Thesis, right? Thesis. Yes. So, I just graduated last year. So, my thesis is, thank you. So my thesis is totally like an online file. So I wonder, how did you to complete your thesis?
how did we complete? We wrote it.
Still on paper, right?
I'm sorry.
With papers.
No, I'm not that old. I didn't handwrite it on paper.
Oh, okay.
I typed it on a computer.
Oh, that's nice. No, computer. Yeah, right. I know that so many students are using AI to finish their thesis. Yes, and especially on the internet, people describe situation like that with a word which is brain rot, 脑腐. Yeah, because people are just doing the essential thing only with others' power, others' efforts, so not their own brain power. So I'm also curious, what do you think of situation like that? And it depends on your experience on writing the thesis. How do you balance the AI part and your brain power part?
It's a great question, and it's an interesting word, right? Brain rot, and I'm sure it exists, right? We use that term in the U.S. now too. I think we have heard this term or something similar to it for decades, right? Think about when I remember being young and computers were first coming out.
Yeah.
Right? And teachers were telling you, oh, you won't always have a computer.
Oh.
You have a computer in your pocket, right? A cell phone is a computer. I remember being in math class, the teacher, oh, you won't always have a calculator. We have a calculator everywhere we go now on our phones.
Yeah.
In undergraduate, we're writing papers. At that time, Microsoft Word or any other typing platform had spell check software, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't AI, but it could tell you if you were spelling something right or wrong. We've seen these gradual advancements in technology, right? I was just joking with you about handwriting. Heck, I'm sure when the typewriter came out, a lot of people said, "Oh, we're going to forget how to write." And some of that is true. But over the course of human existence, as we've created new technologies, I think we then have to learn how to adapt and work with those technologies.
Yes.
Since coming to China, again, I've lived here for a long time, but just came back last year, I've been very impressed with Zhejiang University and how they have embraced using AI. Most of the courses I have been in, many of the faculty members have talked about utilizing AI in the course. They have had us do exercises in using artificial intelligence to help us with our writing, and it showed us how to use it specifically in an ethical manner, right? There are problems with the use of AI, and we can get into those as well. But how to use it to improve your skills, not to necessarily rot your brain. Maybe again, because I'm a bit older and didn't grow up with AI, even though it is still fairly new in this advanced stage, I do not say, hey, AI, can you please write a paper for me? I would never dare. I'm too scared that it would come up with something that's totally bogus. But it's great as a conversation tool. Hey, do I have good topics? Is this a good dissertation topic? What do you think of some of my main arguments in this dissertation? Hey, what might be some great authors to look at who have talked about this previously, and get those ideas and then go do your own sort of investigative research. So I think it's a great tool that we can use, and it's something we've seen advances in technology over the years.
Yes. I think because I'm writing many theses, and also that it's called dissertation in UK, so that is very just confusing and very anxious things for the students actually. But I think under that pressure, many students will use AI writing. I can understand them, but actually several years ago there is no AI writing. Some of the students will do some illegal things in that they will copy others. But actually now there has AI writing. There is a more easier way to just don't use your brain to writing. You can just ask the DeepSeek or ChatGPT, write essays like blah 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 blah, and you will have have article. So I think the things that has the less cost will just make people more lazy to use their brains. That's true. So I think the it's correct that the university should have some regulation to ban the AI writing for the students. I think you can use the AI to assist you. Like you can to maybe just do some grammarly checking or searching some information for you. But actually, you will use the AI to do some very mini task maybe after you work. But I think it's student time. The most important thing is you need to learn how to think.
Yeah, just practice.
Yes, you need to learn how to solve the problems. That is why you learn in university. So you can't just rely on the AI or something that is very technological to instead of your own thinkings. Because I think the teacher give you the dissertation is not in order to have an article. They just want you have the process to thinking about the problems and how to solve the problems. That is ability, that is core ability we should gain in the university.
And I kind of just want to jump on that for a second because you used a really interesting word, and that's ban. Right, and so I'm going to use that. No. I'm going to use that word to launch into another point, which is to kind of juxtapose what I've seen in the United States versus China. When I came to China last year from the U.S. working in higher education, ChatGPT, was the big talking point, as it still is, as AI still is, and a lot of universities were really looking at banning using AI in the classroom, right? Because how do you guarantee the papers that students are submitting as part of a class or part of a dissertation or thesis is generally their own work, and to many extent we can't. But I think it's important that students are learning how to utilize this technology. If you ban it outright and say in the classroom, hey, you can't use AI at all, students that aren't learning how to use it efficiently and effectively might eventually, when they get into the workplace, fall behind those that have learned how to use it really well. AI is here. It's only going to continue to improve.
Yes.
So learning how to use it in an ethical is very important in university and a proper way, as well as learning how to use it efficiently, I think is very, very important. So we kind of have to walk that fine line of doing both in the classroom.
Yes, but actually there is some technology for university to check whether this article is AI generated, right?
Yes. There is technology. Certainly you can run it through software to check. Just reading it. I mean, having taught, lectured in universities myself, reading some articles from students who English is not their first language, you read that and you go, oh, this sounds very ChatGPT. Or as we've seen in the news,
smells AI.
Yeah, it smells AI. Which of course you have no proof of that, so there's nothing you can do about it except maybe have a conversation with the student and encourage them why they should, try and write their own things. But something we've seen in the news recently from the United States, the Department of Health and Human Services producing a document that had possible fake citations in it, which for a lot of US academics is kind of the hallmark of using AI. AI wants to please. It's learned to try and give you answers that you want to hear. And so if you say, hey, produce this article for me on whatever, it's going to generate potentially fake citations for you. So that's something for any students out there thinking about using it. You got to check those citations. Very important.
Yes. But actually, because I just come up with a question, that's because we are graduate from the humanity and social science majors. But there is their question that come very popular that they said when the AI become more development, the social science and humanity majors will be more useless. How do you think about that? Because you are working many years in the education field in university.
It's very, very sad. I actually just wrote a paper on this for a class, not for publication, but talking about humanities fields in the United States, specifically languages, because that's something that I'm very passionate about. And we are seeing declining enrollment numbers, right? Less and less, fewer and fewer students are pursuing these degrees. Institutions have started closing some of these programs, especially some of the humanities programs that have generally been enshrined. You have tenured faculty members there, which generally provides very strong job security. And we've seen some of these programs closing down. It is very unfortunate, but there is a supply and demand question here. Working in international education, many of the students coming to the United States are wanting to learn computer science. They're wanting to learn engineering. They're wanting to learn AI. Exactly. That is where the demand is right now. And universities, even if they are institutions of education and parts of governments, they are also businesses. And so they're providing students what they want as well. So I think, yes, for some of us coming out of humanities programs, there might be differences in the opportunities that we can seek, but I don't think it makes it any less important. I think the jobs that we do in various humanity fields will always be important to humankind as a whole.
Yes. I think that the social science and humanity, I think they won't be instead by the AI, because actually the social science and humanity majors is actually to taught people how to just cooperate with AI, because I think the AI development will raise a very popular discussion is that the algorithm hegemony is that the AI will control all the main decisions for human.
Yes.
So that is very, just people were very anxious about that. But I think that is why we should learn the humanity and social science majors, because that is get us the ability to understand the world and understand the sense of the humans and also the societies. So that is what we never can be instead by AI, I think.
I agree.
Yes, that's true.
And just I am doing my PhD in philosophy, which is oftentimes in the United States kind of a joke, right? What are you going to do with a philosophy degree, right? There's no jobs for philosophy. But to use the words of my advisor, I've gone and listened to a number of his classes, but when he's teaching undergraduate students, he tells them philosophy teaches you three things: to analyze, to consider, and to make a choice. Right? We are all presented with options every day in life. Yes. Philosophy is going to provide you with the ability to make better decisions around the options that are presented in front of you. So it's one of those degrees where, yes, you might not have a specific job being a philosopher, but it can help you in life just as any of our humanities programs can.
Wow.
Yes. So I think that is why that AI can instead of all the majors of social science, because AI just can give you maybe some information, but they can't make decision for you. I think no one want AI to control your own life.
Yes. AI cannot give you the feeling that only human can give you.
Yes.
Right?
Tune into Hangzhou.
Discover the world.
Hangzhou Youthcast.
In terms of Gen Z, young people now graduating from college and having a lot of anxiety towards their future, towards the workforce, that is very much the same. And there are large cultural differences between the United States and China, right? I mean, we might joke in China where you're not allowed to date anyone when you're going to school, right? But as soon as you graduate, it's like, why aren't you married?
Yes.
Very different culturally in the United States. But in terms of economics, right, there are a lot of issues right now around inflation, around the price of housing is huge. Wages are stagnating. So young people are maybe coming out of college and they're able to find jobs, but the salary that they're making is not enough to provide them with the life that they would like to live. Or a better way to say it is maybe the quality of life that they have is not better than that of their parents. So my parents' generation, they went to college, graduated, which not everyone did at that time. But when you came out and got a job, that job would provide you with enough money to buy a house, to buy a car, kind of live the American dream, so to speak. And whether it's in the United States or in China, we know that's not true right now. Yes. People are coming out with very high levels of education. They're finding jobs and maybe not able to find something that provides a very high salary. So similar problems here. Around the civil servant exam, right, and going into this kind of work, very culturally different between the United States and China. So in the United States, there's not kind of one standard examination that you would take to find this kind of position. If you are going to work for the U.S. government, you would apply for the job directly, just like you would any other job, right?
Wow.
You can find government jobs on websites, right? You go to a website, you're looking at jobs. I have certainly looked at some myself, given my background and expertise. You apply to it just like you would at any other job. Now, certain departments of the government will have different requirements. There are different processes that you would have to go through that are maybe different than a regular job. But there is no set examination system for any one job, right? Certain departments might have their own examinations or requirements, but it's not across the board. This is everyone. Now, in terms of Gen Z going after those jobs in the United States, I don't know the exact figures on that. I would say probably not. It's probably not the most popular place to work, especially now. So there are some similarities between the US and China in that a government level job, you're not going to make the most money, but generally it's very stable.
Yes.
So
rock solid.
Yes, I used to work for a public university, so I was considered a kind of quasi-government employee because I worked for the state. It was very, very difficult, or let's say hypothetically, it is very, very difficult to get fired from that kind of job. They're generally very stable. However, with the current U.S. administration, we have seen that totally flipped on its head. These jobs that used to be very stable, very dependable, you could spend a career there, have decent benefits, a decent salary. We have now seen this administration go through and fire thousands upon thousands of people, right? Through this new department called the Department of Government Efficiency, right? They are trying to, as they would claim, to reduce spending, to reduce waste. I think there are a lot of arguments to be made that that is not the case. So yeah, we are seeing a massive culture shift in the United States in these positions that used to once be seen as they are in China, not necessarily being the case right now, and it probably won't be for the next 4 years, right? Once a new administration comes in, there might be some changes again to those policies, but I think what has happened in the past few months in the United States have kind of it has shook the kind of foundations of our government employees and the understanding of what those jobs mean.
But I think why this popular in China is because it's not only very stable, it will have some more social benefits.
Yes.
So that's I wonder in the United States, well, there has so many more benefits than other jobs.
Correct. So there's trade-offs to being a government employee. Generally, you don't make a high salary like you would in the private sector, or you don't have the potential to make as high of a salary. However, your benefits, maybe your health care or your retirement or the number of days off that you receive per year might be higher than those in the private industry. So it is similar in the United States. Of course, the United States, again, any department or a different kind of role within a government agency is going to be very, very different. So me being an educator, very, very different than someone who's maybe working for the government, in the FBI or something, right? The amount of time off or job responsibilities, kind of hours on the job, it's going to be very, very different for everyone.
Yes.
But yes, we could make that comparison between the public and the private sector.
Have you heard a word that is called 上岸? It's like you are swimming in a sea and finally got onto the land. That is how we describe to become a government employee here in China society. But actually, many people will say that there is never a land.
Yes.
Actually, when you just swimming on the land, there will be another sea for you.
Yes.
Yes.
I agree 100%, right? I understand this phrase and what it means, and it could be, right, oh, I finally got this job. I passed the civil, which is a very difficult examination, and I know there's a lot of stress around it, and you feel very relieved when you get there. Just like the Gaokao that you had mentioned earlier.
Yes,
I took the Gaokao, I got into a great school, I got into the program I wanted. But that kind of satisfaction only lasts so long, right? We see that in jobs or with salary increases, right? Sometimes you say, maybe employees are, not satisfied with their position. They get a salary increase and that creates a lot of positive emotions, and then 6 months later you're kind of like, again, I don't like it so much.
Yes.
Right? You take this exam, you work so hard, you got your dream job, no matter where it is, it's your dream. But a year later, a job is still a job. And that what is new and fresh and shiny eventually wears off. And I think that's true of almost anything, no matter if it's education or work or anything in our personal life, right? New car, new house, new dog, anything. Well, not dogs, never dogs. Dogs are always the best 100% of the time. I love them. But I think that's just a common human emotion.
Yes.
Yes.
So you also mentioned that maybe you might get tired of the job, so you want to change or anything else. So I think that's why people invent the gap year. Right, the gap year, no matter in work or especially in study area, especially when you graduate from university. I think most especially students in America, they have a gap year, right? But in China, maybe like having a gap year is illegal.
Yes, we are not allowed to have a gap year here actually, because I can say something about that, because I actually have friends want to have a gap year.
No way.
Yes, but is that true? That because she's my colleague in United Nations, she's a Chinese girl, but she want a gap year. But even she's in Africa, and her parents is very seriously talk to her that don't have a gap year. You will get a long way behind as your follower, as your peers. So that is why I think Chinese parents always think that a life is like a race. We need to run very fast after we get birth to the world. So that is why they are very, very not allowed us to have a gap year, because gap year for them is like you are rest. You do nothing. Nothing progress on your study and nothing progress on your work. And when you get back, you will be far more behind to your peers, and some of the times actually to this our I think it's our job market is very serious, very more pressure. If you have a gap year, maybe you go back, you won't get a very good job. Even the human resources person will ask you, why are you have a gap year? What was you doing? So that is very tough things for us in China.
All right, a lot to talk about there. So let me start with your comment around perhaps saying most U.S. students have a gap year. I don't know specific figures. I would say it's not most U.S. students have a gap year, but it is, let's say, far more common in the United States and other Western countries than it is in China. So historically, gap years, this term was oftentimes used around high school to college. So a lot of students after graduating high school, kind of going through the K through 12 school system, wanted to take a year off before pursuing college. And that's still something a lot of people do. Between your bachelor's degree and master's degree, I would say that's a different term for us because a lot of people take years off between undergraduate and postgraduate. If we're using the term gap year, then I had gap years. I did not return to do a master's degree until much later, and now, well into my 30s, now pursuing a PhD. So many years away from school. I understand the structure in China, right? The majority of students, they kind of go through the system. It's, you go through you go through school, your primary, secondary school, then into college, into your undergraduate, and then into postgraduate, and then, right? And unfortunately, that is kind of become an ingrained system here. And I say unfortunately because I know how difficult it is for young people to go through that. Obviously there's many reasons for this. Part of it is just sheer numbers, right? Population, right? To go back to the Gaokao or other, the civil servants exam or the exam to get into graduate schools, right? These kinds of exams, because there are so many people here and so many young people and people, trying to enter these programs at the same time, there has to be some sort of selection process. So I can understand an argument from individuals saying, if you take a gap year, you're going to be so much behind your peers, right? It's just like when I see, kindergartners here, that are signed up for 50 extra classes outside of kindergarten, right? It's like, oh, you have to take a swimming class and you have to take this class and an English class and that. Because if you don't do it, you will be behind your peers. I know many parents who say, we don't want our kids to do any of that. Yes. But now that they're in grade school and all of their peers have done those classes, oh my gosh, now it feels like our kid's behind. They're not behind in school, but they're behind all of their peers. So I can understand that argument. So to build off of that, I don't necessarily agree. I think there can be a lot of benefits to taking a gap year, depending on what your purpose is, right? If you take a gap year and just
sleep,
right, lay flat, right, for 1 year, maybe that's not going to help you in the future as you're pursuing education or a job. But if you take a year off from school so that you can go intern or you can go work and you can get some valuable experience outside of education, that can be very, very positive. Or for me, I'm taking a break from my career. I've worked for a number of years. Now I'm doing, a PhD. When I go back to apply for another job, the first question people are going to ask is, well, you didn't work for the last 4 years. What have you been doing? And I have to be able to articulate how pursuing a PhD is going to help me in the future. And I would say it's the same for those students, right? If you took a year off from school to do something, maybe it was to travel. Maybe you learned more about other cultures and other societies and other places, right? Even though it sounds like it's just traveling, there's a lot of valuable life experience you can gain from that gives you different perspectives that can help separate you from your peers. And that's where I think sometimes in the US education system or even in the job market, we try to look at a person more holistically. And so there's time, again, population differences make a huge difference in this, but there's time to speak to someone one-on-one and kind of understand how have these experiences impacted you. As someone who is doing a PhD here in China, and I was born in the 1980s, and most of my classmates were 90s, if not 2000s, right? In their terms of, there's a big age gap. But the way that we think about things is very different because almost all of them, except for a few other international students, went from a bachelor's to a master's to a PhD. And they do not have lived experience outside of the educational system. And so the viewpoint I can bring to life, but more specifically to classes and to education, is very, very different because I've had other experiences in life. So I think there is a benefit to it as long as there is a purpose behind it. So kind of a long-winded answer to gap years. But
so it's just depend on what you do in the gap year, not the gap year itself.
Yes, of course. I not to argue with myself, but in China, right, if the system says, hey, look, this is going to negatively impact you, and if your main goal is to succeed within this system, to kind of win this race, so to speak, and get ahead of peers and check all those boxes, then yeah, maybe play the game. But there's more to life, I would argue, than just economic benefits or, finding that dream job that we said might not be your dream job for very long. So you get one life to live, do what you want to do.
Oh, yes. YOLO.
Yeah, I'm speaking to my Gen Z peers here. Yes, you.
I said also because we were talking about the race, right? The educational race. So that reminds me of another thing, which is, like I noticed a news on the magazine Nature. It mentioned that the Harvard University, and it says now like 75% researchers are like they're considering leaving USA because of the policy of American government. So do you think that education should be related to policy? Because sorry, because I know education race is now globally, it's now becoming global. So what do you think of that?
I definitely think there needs to be separation, right? We have a term that we like to use in the United States called academic freedom, in that it's very important for institutions of higher education to have autonomy and to have freedom over what they teach, over what they research, and how they conduct their institution. I think that is extremely important. And I can speak to that from personal experience. Again, working in higher education for over 10 years, I actually returned to the United States from China to work in an organization called a Confucius Institute, they exist all around the world, partnerships between Chinese institutions of higher education and international ones, so in my case, a U.S. one, to try and teach Chinese language and culture. I did that for a number of years until, unfortunately, certain U.S. policies, in essence, closed all of them in the United States. There are still a few that are hanging around, but that policy, in effect, closed all of them. And I definitely think that was a hit to academic freedom. And I think that was a minor instance that had certainly bipartisan support, unfortunately. But today, what we're seeing is far, far worse. We are seeing an administration that is openly, I would say, antagonistic towards specific institutions of higher education, perhaps predominantly those that might speak against this administration in certain ways. It is the argument, I think, again, I'm just speaking my personal opinion, is spun in a specific way. The administration is trying to make it around anti-Semitism or other conversations, which certainly can be issues, but I think the attacks on higher education are going to have real consequences. So, from my colleagues that are still working in U.S. universities, I know many of them are thinking about changes in careers. Yeah. And again, it depends on the field, right? It depends on the institution. It depends on the field. There are certain facets of universities in the United States. Departments have been completely shut down due to this administration. And so many people have lost their jobs or have self-selected that I'm going to find another job before I lose my job. In terms of research, right? We have seen millions upon millions upon millions of research funding canceled for very critical things around HIV, cancer, a lot of these hard sciences that, of course, we're humanities students. We often get overlooked, but we know those are very important research initiatives. And, the United States, which is generally a leader in education and in research, canceling a lot of these critical undertakings, I think, is very, very unfortunate. To move beyond research, I think the exchange of ideas is also essential, right? Yes. You talked about education being global, and how do we globalize education, or how do we build a more cohesive global society? I think education is a very important avenue to do that. Yes. You studied in the United Kingdom, right? I have studied here in China. There are millions of students every year that go, to other countries to learn and study. And when you travel to another country, you not only learn about that specific country and its language and its culture and its customs, and of course all the coursework that you're taking there, but you bring your country with you. Oh, yes. You are impacting every single person with whom you communicate in that country. And this kind of global competency or understanding or communication is vital, I think, for our planet as we are maybe not physically, but becoming smaller and smaller through our interconnectedness. I think it's important for this generation that's coming up. It's so important that we continue to have the conversation in an apolitical manner, right? Education is generally very, very far away from politics, right? I think any country can agree that education is important. So keeping it away from politics, keeping that conversation going is vital. But unfortunately, with a lot of these policies in the United States now, not only are we seeing impacts to research, but massive impacts to the ability for international students to come to the United States and pursue their educational dreams there. So I think it's disheartening for me being from this field and being a U.S. citizen. I hope that we can see improvements to America's outreach and participation in a global community where we are promoting not only research, we're promoting education as an important value of our country, and we're promoting cross-cultural communication through various exchange programs and our students and our faculty and our staff within our universities.
Yes. That is what I very agree with you, is that when we go abroad, we don't need we not only to learn the major, we not only to learn the classes, we also to learn from others from different countries. Actually, when I studied in UK, I think not many classmates is from UK. They are from the different countries globally, like Africa and also Asia and also Europe. So I think most of the people just come together to bring their own culture and background and also their different sense of the valuable things. So you can exchange idea with them. So you will learn more just intercultural things. You have gained more different ideas from the different backgrounds.